Hello everyone and welcome to F1 2018. It's the AOR Hype Energy F3 League on the PC. Here, the season opening of Season 16 with Round 1, the Australian Grand Prix. My name is Thompson, and joining me in the commentary box tonight and for the whole of this season is Aladar. Good evening to you.
Good evening. I'm very glad to be here once again, and I absolutely cannot wait to see what we have in store for us this season. It looks like an excellent split that we've got for ourselves.
Yeah, it's great to see everybody who's watching. Good attendance tonight. And before we get into the thick of things, we'll have a quick look at the track with a hot lap, and then afterwards Aladar will give you a few information about the Albert Park circuit.
Hello and welcome along to our very first AOR hot lap on the new F1 2018 game around Albert Park. And taking us through a lap on the track today is our very own Marcel Kiefer, representing Force India in the F1 East Championships. Now he's just about to start his lap on the start-finish straight, going into 8th gear, going around the first corner, going into turn 1 and hits the brakes at a very decent pace. He's staying in the inside zone just as he goes to the DRS straight to get a better run, going into turn 2 and 3, full power again and braking just as he gets to the Hummer board and dropping it down to 3rd gear to maximise momentum and rotate the car really easy. Going into turn 4, going to 5th gear as he goes through turn 5, going all out here with the power, especially as these cars is definitely really faster in this game than F1 2017. He chose to stay in 7th gear there, but Poppy goes to 8th gear just as he started sector 2, clipping the corner there. He's good, very good speed going through turn 9 before the sweeping stage of turn 8. He gets the braking absolutely right here through these long straight, and again chooses to go to 7th gear to make sure he gets the momentum here. Absolutely fast car, absolutely very good engine around here. Getting that corner absolutely right is definitely crucial around Albert Park. Just going through the DRS straight, a very common move for overtaking. You get that move absolutely right, and it is very good moves going through here. He's going through the penultimate few corners of the track, definitely slowing down the speed a little bit there to gain traction. He does that with ease very, very well as he approaches the last few corners. Very, very critical as you go through the power here. And there we are. There was a lap around Albert Park today.
Okay, I hope you were able to enjoy that little brief introduction of the track there with that hot lap as narrated by Jess. And here we can just see a little bit of the info about this circuit. It's not the easiest circuit to overtake, and overtaking has been difficult on the F1 2018 game, so it'll be interesting to see how much of that we're able to get. Apologies if you're able in the background to hear that noise. Yeah, so obviously this is the Australian Grand Prix. There are 16 turns, a lot of them significantly fast, especially the 11 and 12 chicane, which is especially quick.
Yeah, absolutely. So qualifying will be quite essential if you don't want to have to do a lot of overtaking in the race. And speaking of qualifying, we're already 3 minutes into the session, and people are on their first flying laps. No one has set a time so far, but they'll have 18 minutes to put their times on the board.
Absolutely, and here we are in qualifying in sunny Melbourne, or what looks like fairly sunny Melbourne. No hint of rain at the moment, as Muller comes across the line and sets the first lap of AOR Season 16 Formula 3 on the PC.
Yeah, it's a 1:19.4. That's already quite competitive time. I'd hazard to guess that qualifying times will be in the low 19s, maybe a 19.2, 19.1. It might be unlikely to break into the 18s, but a 19.4 is already quite competitive, to be fair. As we see Skatey coming across the line, he only set a 20.0, so he'll have to improve on that time, that is for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I think a low 1:19 is probably what we can expect for the ultimate pole time, actually. So I think that lap from Muller, who has looked very good in the time trials coming into this race, by the way, and he is a new name, someone I know very little about, but he looks like he could be very quick, especially around here at Melbourne. And as he has proved there, really going with a 1:19.4 straight off the bat. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2. I'll see if I can take a
That
little
was actually
down.
Muller slowing down to let somebody go past
okay.
before 11 and 12.
Fair enough. Here we have JSR coming across the line. He is on the super soft tyres, and interestingly, Corny has also gone for the super soft option right now. JSR comes a lot across the line, and it's a 1.8 8 seconds away from the pole time, and AOR Enigma also comes across the line and splits JSR and Corny, the two Supersoft runners, apart.
Yeah, so see, I think Julian is on a fast lap at the moment. He just started, coming through 1 and 2, open the DRS down onto the one down to turn 3 now. Important braking zone. You can easily dock up that inside front and run just a little bit wide. And as we can see, got a bit of wheel spin there out of the exit. And as a follow-up of that, the following corners have been quite scruffy, so obviously not the optimal first sector for Julian here. The young Dutch driver drove in F3 last season as well and finished in P3.
Indeed he did, and yeah, that was quite an erratic first sec, particularly on the exit of turn 4. He got very wide and onto a very dangerous piece of curbing there, so obviously he wouldn't have been able to be quite full throttle throughout that. Coming into the fast chicane right now, he seems to handle it pretty well. Yeah, he's done that okay. Opens the DRS now towards this 90-degree right-hander, right to the edge of the track, turning in, lovely, hits the apex, kick of oversteer on exit by the look of things. Still going pretty well though, we'll be able to see. I don't think this will be quite the fastest time, but I don't think it should be too bad. Oh, another little mistake there coming out of the penultimate corner, another kick of oversteer, so that should lose him another couple of tenths as well, and let's see what it is as he crosses the line. It's still a good lap though, it's a 1:19.9, which is good enough to put him in 3rd currently.
Yeah, so despite having those small mistakes in the first and in the last sector, it was still quite competitive time. Obviously, still half a second up. Miller with that great first lap there, but yeah, I mean, seeing that his lap was far from perfect, he should be able to find quite a bit of time onto his second lap. And I think people like Murphy and Lemon are out on track now. Actually, the Force India of Lemon has just started his flying lap as we speak, and there's a Haas coming out of the pits. Try to not get held up by people exiting there, and he ran a little bit wide in turn 2, but I think it should be fine, unless obviously you go off the track so far that your lap gap's invalidated, which is a thing. Strict corner cutting rules are enabled.
Yeah, and particularly into turn 1 in Australia, corner cutting, especially when you run wide on exit, can really bite you. It seems like, considering he's still pushing, even though he missed the apex quite significantly there, still pushing, so it looks like he hasn't had his lap invalidated as he comes towards this right-hander now with a big, heavy curbing on the inside. You want to make sure not to clunk that too hard, there's a big sausage curve there. Coming down what is one of several back straights as he heads towards turns 11 and 12. Once again, going through those fairly nicely, not at all ragged on the exit. He'll get a nice little tow here from the Renault up ahead of Ramdrop, who has currently put himself up into 6th on the Supersoft tyres, by the way, which is a very impressive lap time indeed. Another missed apex there for Lehman as he runs a little bit wide on exit as well. That was a much better corner here coming into the penultimate one. A very tricky braking zone indeed, but he seems to have got it all slowed down nicely without too much trouble at all, and onto the back straight. He'll be coming up towards the line now, and we'll see where this puts him. That looked fairly tidy from my end, but it was a 1:20.9 in the end there.
Yeah, that puts him provisional P10 at the moment. Le Mans having the enhanced difficulty of having to learn to race without the racing line, because he qualified for the leagues and did his triumph tiles running with racing line, but he was so far ahead of the pace of everyone with racing line. He would have been too fast for a racing line split. Obviously, F1 to F4 on PC run with absolutely no assists whatsoever, so you're not allowed to use the virtual racing line.
And I can attest to the difficulty of having to learn without racing line. Once you've already learned how to play the game with the racing line, it can be incredibly difficult, and it would explain a couple of those missed apexes that we saw throughout that lap from Lehman in the Force India. Just going to take a look at Muller now as he comes around. I believe he's pushing on this lap in the Haas. Yeah, this seems like a very fast lap at the moment. He's coming up towards the fast chicane once again. A little brush with the wall on the way in just shows you how much of the track he's trying to use and how he's trying to get every single thing out of it. Although DRS doesn't appear to be open. That could be just on my end though. Not entirely sure about that. Yeah, no, he's actually backed out of it.
Oh yeah, he changed his engine mode from hot lap down. I hope you have the telemetry open on your screen. On the bottom right, you can see there's a small lightning bolt with a number next to it. 0 is no deployment, and 5 is hot lap mode, and then there's a few modes in between. So in case you're not familiar with the game, you can see how much electric energy the driver is deploying according to that number there.
Indeed, I think Paschek just came across the line. He was in hot lap mode, and now he's gone all the way back down into no ERS deployment, so he must have just come across the line. I'm not sure if he improved on his lap time or not. I can't remember if he was up in 5th already. But either way, 5th place for him, pretty decent. It's looking very good for the Haas pairing in general at the moment, 1st and 5th. Not a shabby way to start qualifying. We've still got about half the time left in qualifying though, so there's plenty more time to set laps. And Muller very sensibly coming straight into the pits after I believe he ran wide on the exit of turn 12, and that probably invalidated his lap. And even if it didn't, it was quite a scruffy exit anyway, and he wasn't able to put the power down on the grass, so makes sense that he would have backed out of that lap.
Yeah, obviously we have still 7 minutes remaining in the session, so he has all the time in the world to come on back into the pits, put on a fresh set of tyres, and then go out for a final run.
Just taking a look for anyone who is in the hot lap mode on their ERS deployment. Kelon appears to be on a push lap right now. He's getting a nice little tow from the Force India there as he goes straight past. Currently down in 18th, Kelon, having not yet set a lap time. Kelon, of course, somewhat of a fallen great because in F1 2017 and on F1 2016 as well, and maybe even before, he was in the F1 leagues, and he was quite a serious contender, having accrued a couple of podiums in the very top tier of AOR, so I expect to see very good things from him indeed. Obviously 2018, a whole new game, and it's yet to see exactly how everyone shakes out on this game, but as Kelon comes around the corner now, we'll get our first little taste of just how good he is.
And he comes across the line for provisional 7th with a 120.2, so that is 8/10 of pole time at the moment, but it was only his first run, so he should be able to, with 6 minutes left, he should be able to come back into the pits and do another run if he chooses to do so. And yeah, as you said, Kelon, a few seasons back, F1 driver, and in general we have a really tightly packed grid, I think, for this season. We have drivers from previous F2 down to F7. Depending on their pace, they were obviously placed in this league. Then we have Kelon and Ramdrop, who are returning drivers who have had very good previous seasons, and then the new drivers are all very quick as well from looking at their placement times. So it's going to be a very interesting season, an interesting race up ahead, I think, and it should be highly competitive as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Murphy in the Red Bull right now appears to be on a hot lap as we watch him once again. Every time I mention a car, it seems to be coming towards the fast left-right of turns 11 and 12, and indeed that is exactly what the Red Bull is doing as he makes his way through there nicely, not lifting off any more than he needs to, and getting the DRS wide open on his way towards the right-hander.
And one thing I just noticed, which is interesting, Liman is actually on super soft tires at the moment. He's not on a hot lap yet. I think that's actually his in lap. So it's interesting that he's trying to set his time on super softs, but with a 120.9, he's not very competitive at the moment.
We have seen people experimenting with the super soft tires in general, though, which does indicate that they would be the better tyre to start the race on if you are able to. So this could mean very good things for whoever qualifies in 11th place, because it seems like the super softs aren't going to be fast enough to get you into the top 10. But if you qualify in 11th place, of course, you have the freedom of choice with the tyres, and the super softs could well be a very valid strategy to start on.
Yeah, if you start in P11, you actually might have the chance to gain a few spots in the race. Considering that it will probably be a one-stop for most of the drivers, but if you have to start on those qualifying ultra-soft tires, you really have to stretch both your sets to quite an extent. So if you can start on the super softs, you definitely have a strategy advantage, because you can push a lot compared to the ultra runners.
Indeed you can. Murphy, by the way, did in fact abort that lap that I was mentioning that he was on. I'm now on board with Ruben, who seems to be the only one, as far as I can tell, who's out there on a flying lap at the moment. He ran a little bit wide on the exit of the previous corner here and very wide into turn 11. That's not quite the way I would expect to be the optimal way to go through that corner. But we'll see just how well this lap time turns out at the moment. Ooh, and that's not right at all. He's completely cut that corner. And if that's not an invalidation, that will have slowed him down a lot regardless. So this is not going to be a good lap from Ruben, who really I thought was going to be one of the stronger contenders coming into this season. But perhaps nerves are getting the better of him, and he's struggling down there in 18.
Yeah, when we the clock is now down to just under 3 minutes, by the way, and a lot of people are now starting to drive out of the pit lane to beat the clock to the line to set their final lap of the qualifying session. Obviously, once the clock goes to 0 seconds, all laps that have already been started, the drivers are free to finish those laps. So yeah, if the clock goes down to 0, it's not the end just yet, but you just have to beat the clock to the line.
One thing I'm finding a little bit interesting here is I'm watching Tom97HD's outlap, and he's actually engaging in some tyre warming, which is not something you've seen very much of in the F1 2017 game. It never seemed to actually have very much of an effect at all, and in fact on that game, rather than getting heat into your tyres, what you wanted to do was absolutely minimize the wear to the nth degree. In this case, that doesn't seem to be the case, as Ramdrop puts himself up into second there coming across the line. It's a 1:19.6, and that will probably be his final lap of the session, so that's decent for now, but I expect he will not be P2 come the end of the session.
Yeah, at the moment he has backed down his ERS a bit. I mean, he could try and start another flying lap, but the question is, does he want to do that with his tyres, because they're already at 5% telemetry suggests, so you really don't want to put more tyre wear on top of those tyres for the start of the race.
Absolutely you don't, especially considering people seem to have been showing preference for the super soft tyres. That definitely indicates that the ultra soft tyres, you will struggle to make them last an appropriate distance, and therefore I think it's very unlikely you want to be setting more than one flying lap on those tyres whatsoever. Currently on board with Tom97HD as he makes his way around from the hot lap. He was third for a long time during this qualifying session. He's now been bumped down to 5th by the likes of Ramdrop moving up ahead of him, and we'll see whether he's able to do anything about that. Currently with a 1:19.9, one of 3 drivers on a 1:19.9, encountering a bit of traffic here as Ramdrop gets nice and out of the way to the left-hand side. He's actually got quite a significant amount of dirty air probably coming off of the car in front. I'm not entirely sure. I think that might be yeah, that's AOR Ruben up ahead in the Mercedes. I'm not sure if Ruben is actually on a fast lap or an out lap right now, but either way, this is quite the hindrance for Tom, and Ruben does indeed get out of the way, so he wasn't actually on a fast lap whatsoever. We'll see whether Tom's lap time suffered as a result of this, as he comes through the last corner, now getting the power down. He's already out of ERS deployment, so that's going to be suffering a little bit down the straight, and he comes across the line, and he moves ahead of Ramdrop, but only just.
Yeah, that was obviously an improvement by 0.3 there, but the question is, did he lose a bit of time behind that traffic? Could he have beaten Muller in provisional pole at the moment? That is obviously a question that we won't be able to answer, as Julian 2395 sets a new fastest lap, just beating Muller with a 1:19.379. So Julian now puts himself onto the top spot. The question is, can someone else beat that time of 1:19.3? Just having a look, Muller's still on a fast lap, so he'll have the chance to counteract this time set by Julian, and since he's still going all guns blazing, he's probably going to have a lap time improvement.
I don't think this lap's good enough. No, he's into the pits. No. He's coming straight into the pits. He missed a couple of corners. He wiggled the wheel in frustration on the exit of turn 12. I can't tell if he was frustrated with the traffic of RR Assassin up ahead, but he completely missed the apex of what I believe is, I want to say turn 13. So the second of the two 90-degree right-handers. So unfortunately for him, he was not able to improve on his lap time, and Julian looks to have stolen pole. I don't think anyone else can take this from him right now. So very good stuff from the young Dutchman.
Yeah, the only one on track is Ruben, and he now also pulls into the pit lane. So I think that is qualifying session done.
Absolutely. So interesting. That's not really what I was quite expecting to see. I was expecting to see the likes of Muller and Julian definitely up there at the top. Ramdrop's no surprise. He is also, like Kalon, he is an ex-F1 driver as well. Kalon down in 10th is a surprise to me, and same with Ruben all the way down in 18th.
Yeah, Ruben had a strong last season, that is for sure, but at the moment he seems to be struggling with F3 pace. Obviously, he moved up from F4 in the previous season, but he did finish second that last time around. So it's going to be interesting to see how he will fare now in the race, if he can move up a few positions. And the official qualifying results on screen for you. And Julian actually got a penalty.
I assume these penalties are going to apply. Julian has a 5th-place grid penalty, which is incredibly strange. Murphy also has one. I'm just going to check the race director and see if I can find out what exactly it is that penalty is for. Grid penalty. Yeah, they collided. Murphy and Julian, apparently on their first lap, collided with one another. The two Red Bull cars crashing into each other on the outlap, seemingly, and getting each other a grid penalty. Now, that is a catastrophe.
That is that's gonna cause some controversy in the Red Bull team. I'm gonna bet they're gonna have a little chat after the race.
Really a shame we couldn't catch that, because that would have been absolutely fascinating to see what happened there. I really cannot fathom what they could have done to make that happen, and it's both of them that have got the penalty as well. It's not like it's just one of them either, so a real double whammy for the team.
Yeah, at the moment the drivers are on the grid, getting their setup and fuel loads and strategy ready for the race. We're going to wait until they are ready to do that. It should be only taking a few further seconds. As you can see, the drivers are readying up for the race. And then we will get going with round number 1 of Season 16, the Australian Grand Prix. And it looks like we are ready to start the race. We have the start of the formation lap now. As you can see, Miller pulls away there and everybody following him. And now it will be very crucial to get tyre temperatures up to where you really want them. Obviously in F1 2017 it really wasn't a thing. But with the new tyre core and carcass heat molds, it's really important to get your tyres up to proper temperature. Otherwise you won't have any grip whatsoever.
Interestingly, on the lap board, on the table on the left-hand side, I'm seeing Julian is still portrayed up in 1st, but he is in fact down in 6th place. I'm not sure if you're getting that same issue.
For me, he's in P6, both on the on-screen display and on the live tracking.
Oh, okay. Well, I apologize for that one then to the stream, but Julian is indeed in 6th place and not in 1st, as you're seeing on the left-hand side there. Yeah. Just a quick note, everyone who is starting outside of the top 10 has avoided those ultra-soft tyres, and I am not surprised to say the least. Adidas Tracksuit was the one who ended up in that coveted 11th place position. Didn't start on softs like Murphy and Postas in 12th and 13th. He went for the super softs instead, as I sort of predicted. Hayden and Lehman, they've been disqualified from the session. Now, does that disqualify them from the whole race, or is that just from the formation lap?
They might have been put to the grid. I'm not sure. We will see after the start of the race, but if they did something to actually get disqualified, that would be a very bad start to their season. And I just wanted to note that Julian actually already has 11% tire wear, and that is by far highest of all the drivers. And yes, it says Posters and Murphy onto the soft, and everybody else outside of top 10 onto the super soft. So we've got a few different strategies going on as everybody's now lining up on the grid as we get ready to start the race.
And I don't see Lehman or Hayden here on the grid. Oh no, there we go, there we go. There they are. So I suppose they will be lining up to take the start of the race. The disqualification does only apply for the formation lap by the look of things.
Yeah, otherwise that would have been a really not so nice start. But yeah, we're waiting for everyone to get ready to line up. Looks like we're doing so now. And we come to 3 right lights, 4 white, 5 lights, as I try to find my words. And the light's out, and the race is underway. Looks like a good start there for everyone. A bit shuffling around, people going 4 wide, 5 wide, into turn 1. Will there be collisions? I'm having a look further at the back. A few people getting squeezed off. And there's a Mercedes in the walls. I think that might have been Corny. who got slammed off there. That's not the start he wanted, and it looks like he might have some damage as well. So he's now down to 18th place as we've got a bit of shuffling going on. I think he's the only one who really got smashed off track, but Ramdrop also dropped down by 6 positions, now finds himself back in P9 behind the Ferrari of AOR Enigma.
Yeah, what happened there was Ramdrop and Corny, I think they went side by side into turn 1, and Ramdrop was pushed wide onto the grass and completely lost traction, and he was fishtailing around and made significant contact with Corny, and Corny went slamming into the wall. Very glad to see that he is still in the race despite what happened to him, because that was a pretty significant contact and very bad news for Ramdrop as well. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have any damage either, as Adidas tracksuit right now all over the back of Ian Bastien here in the Williams. Adidas tracksuit gonna take the inside line here, and Skatey maybe trying to follow him through as well, trying to get one over on his fellow Dutchman as they go side by side. Now Adidas tracksuit is already up into 5th, who started 11th by the way, so that's an excellent start from the Sauber driver, Skatey and Ian, and it looks like Skatey's got him, and now, oh, Skatey's teammate tries to go through as well, and Ian shuts the door on him, and Ian is in the wall. He's lost some of his front wing. He's still going to be able to continue just about, and it's bad news for both him and Enigma as they get tangled up coming out of the penultimate corner.
Yeah, and I just saw Tom97 actually left the session, so he might have had a disconnect. Obviously, his ghosted AI car is still driving around the track, but it won't be as fast as the other drivers around him, and he's going to drop positions unless he can find his way back into the lobby.
One thing to note is right now at the front of the field, while there's a lot of chaos going on behind us now, actually JSR's retired from the session. I'm just going to see if I can quickly see what happened there. I'm unable to see it. I believe I saw him on the exit of turn 5 there, maybe just in the wall. AOR Enigma's slowed down to let everyone through. Maybe he's had some sort of issue here. Murphy's also slowing down. Very peculiar behavior right at the back of the field here. I cannot work out quite what is going on.
No, sorry, who's it? No, wait, Assassin actually. Looks like he's missing parts of his front wing, so he's going very slow at the moment. Yep, that's quite a bit missing there. I'll hazard to guess that he has to come into the pits at the end of this lap, so he was involved in some kind of contact there.
Yeah, he must have been involved in the collision with JSR, and I think Enigma must have been caught up in that too, because he was slowing down to let everyone through, and then Murphy also slowed down to let everyone through, and it's just a whole confusing mess back there right now. Postas has absolutely no front wing, as both Murphy and Enigma go sliding through up into 13th and 14th places respectively. Let's see if any of them come into the pits now. Postas, of course, will, and none of the others have. Let's see if Assassin does as well. No, he stays. Oh, no, he does come into the pits at the last minute. There he is, missing the end plates on both sides of his front wing as well. As I was going to mention, though, before all of that massive amount of chaos kicked off, it's Müller and Paschek leading at the front in the 2 Haas cars. What an excellent start for them.
Yeah, 2 Germans driving in 2 American cars here at the Australian Grand Prix on lap 3. Obviously, Müller starting for pole, and then Paschek having a good start and keeping out of trouble, has moved up 2 places now to be in 2nd position.
The closest gap at the moment in the field is Corny, who is currently only 2/10 behind Lehman, and Lehman runs a little bit wide there, and he's onto the curbing. That will not help his traction coming down this sort of back curve here as Corny moves to the outside. Will Lehman try and shut the door? No, he's not going to do it, and it's a real battle of bravery here. Coming into the far chicane, neither of them take it as fast as they could have, and Lehman runs significantly wide on the exit, and he's going to have lost a lot of traction. And here is the DRS now for Corny as he drives all the way around the outside in the Mercedes, and it looks like, I believe, he's going to be able to get it done, and yes, he has. Despite the kick of oversteer on the exit, he has moved himself up into 11th place ahead of Lehman.
Wow, he is really fighting with a knife between his teeth here, really wanting to get that overtake done here at the early stages of this race. That was obviously only a battle for P11, so not even for points, but I'm going to guess that Corny is going to try to extend that gap to the Force India behind and catch up to Tom, who is still in that ghosted car, I think. Yeah, he hasn't rejoined the session, so he might not be able to actually. Obviously, we don't know what the issue is, if he had a disconnect or maybe a power out or whatever, but he will continue to drop positions.
And while that was all happening, Adidas Tracksuit moved himself up into 3rd place now, ahead of Julian, and those super soft tyres are absolutely coming alive for him, and it looks like everyone else is really struggling in the ultra softs right now, as Ian sets the fastest lap towards the back of the field on those super soft tyres. Right now, Skatey is the next one to try and take advantage of Julian, whose tyre wear really is it's really kicking in right now. As you mentioned, he had the worst tyre wear on the grid of anyone, and it seems to really be coming to bite him now.
Yeah, meanwhile, Corny was re-overtaken by Lemon, as Corny had a huge moment of oversteer on the curb exiting turn 4, and he was really close coming into turn 11, but then he kind of messed up the fast left-right-hander, and now he finds himself back behind the Force India, and once they get past Tom, that will be the battle for the final points-paying position of the race. Corny also, by the way, really struggling with tyre wear. He's already at 36%, and he's actually already coming into the pits as we speak.
Oh yeah, so he is the first person to pit unprovoked in terms of front wing damage. Ruben right now really close to the back of Hayden, as Skatey and Julian look to be going side by side here into turn 3 and through turn 4. Julian keeping ahead for now. But it really does seem like a matter of time for the Red Bull driver, as his tyres seem to have absolutely fallen off the cliff. Skatey going to be trying to get past another of his fellow Dutchmen here as Julian runs very wide again on the exit of turn 6. And now Skatey towards the inside. There's no space there. Julian absolutely slams the door shut. Goes incredibly defensive, runs very wide. He's not going to have any traction whatsoever there. Ruben is out of the race as well. I can't see exactly what happened there. I won't be able to find out right now. But Ramdrop now.
That was the exit of turn 5. Sorry to step in there. He lost the car and smashed into the wall.
Right, so a really unfortunate start for Ruben. He made a good start after starting right at the back of the grid, but unfortunately he wasn't able to capitalize on it, evidently, as he has in fact DNF'd from the race now, and Julian lost not 1 but 2 positions as Ramdrop slithered his way through with the help of Skatey. Murphy now just going past Tom97HD's ghosted car towards the end of the top 10, and Enigma also sliding his way up into the points.
And Julian comes into the pits after he has had enough of his worn-out tyres, and he will come in for a set of, it looks like, super soft tyres. Yes, it is. So super softs for Julian. That might be a two-stop strategy right there due to his high tyre wear.
Yeah, I'm inclined to think that must be a two-stop strategy, which is very strange. I'm surprised he didn't feel able to make a one-stop strategy on the softs last towards the end there, but he has pitted only on lap 6. That is very early to pit, so it does make some sense. Ramdrop currently behind Skatey and looking to pressure the Ferrari driver into a mistake. Skatey seems to be keeping it all nice and on the road right now, not quite having the same sort of troubles that Julian was having, as he was getting all over the road trying to defend from Skatey and then from Ramdrop as well. Meanwhile, at the front, Muller seems to have checked out a significant amount here, as he's 3 seconds ahead of his teammate, who in turn is 3.6 seconds ahead of Adidas Tracksuit, although Adidas Tracksuit, of course, does have the advantage of the super soft tyres and cannot be discounted going into the later stages of this race.
Yeah, Ramdrop still trying to hunt down Skatey here. That is the battle for the 4th position at the moment. Skatey obviously having moved up 5 positions from the start of the race, so the race is going good for him, but Ramdrop is still trying to regain the positions he lost at the start, as I lose my English here. He's still 2 positions down from where he started, and Paschek actually now in the pits.
Yeah, he's pitted from 2nd place, and he is going to be putting the soft tyres on, which implies to me that he's going for a one-stop strategy. He has pitted quite early, but he should be able to make them last, I think, towards the end.
Yeah, it will be a bit of a stretch, but it should be doable, and it wouldn't surprise me if Muller actually comes into the pits at the end of this following lap. Maybe next lap, but his tyre wears should be becoming quite significant now, as for everyone else who hasn't stopped yet on the ultras. So they're not gonna go not much further into the race. Let's put it that way.
Murphy, by the way, has become another casualty of this race, as his car is now ghosted. He left the session about a lap ago. I think he was having some lag spikes as he dropped down the field very abruptly before leaving the session. Didn't seem to be in the wall or anything like that, though, so I don't believe it was any sort of rage quit or anything like that. I think he probably just desynced from the session. So that's unfortunate for him, and it's not gone all that well for the Red Bull drivers thus far. Enigma right now on the back of Paschek, and Paschek will have cold tyres, actually, so this will be interesting to see if Enigma is able to do anything about it. Paschek runs wide on the exit of turn 12, and it looks like Enigma's going to have the run on him here, coming through the DRS zone. He tries to go around the outside. The Haas driver keeps it on the inside, though, and is able to shut the door on exit. Enigma will have to stay put in 8th place for now, and that is crucial that Pashek doesn't get himself avoided in these fights down the field if he has to have any chance of winning this race.
And someone we talked about before the race was that P11 grid spot, and I remember saying that you can move up quite a bit from that spot because you get the better tire choice. And look who is leading the race at the moment. It is Adidas Tracksuit, who started in P11 on his set of super soft tires.
Absolutely, a very impressive performance from him thus far, up 10 places. Hayden as well shouldn't be discounted. He's up 13 places from the start. He, I believe, is on the super soft tires as well. Ian getting himself a 3-second time penalty down there. There's been quite a few time penalties coming through thick and fast at the start of the race, so I haven't been able to keep track of all of those quite yet. Pashek seems to have been able to hold off Enigma, but he hasn't actually made any inroads to Muller whatsoever with that attempted undercut. He has actually fallen slightly further behind his teammate.
Just having a look at the race director, actually from the guys that are still in the session, at the moment it's Corny and Ian who both have a 3-second time penalty. And I think there have been a few who have served 5 seconds penalties at their stops as well. But obviously, if they've already served it, they won't have the time added at the end of the race. If you get a 3-second time penalty, that will be added at the end.
And here is Ramdrop into the pits from 3rd position.
And I'm going to guess he's going to go onto a set of soft tires. Yeah, soft tires, there we are. And he's going to run to the end of the race from here on out.
Yeah, it seems like the only one who is on that alternate strategy is Julian there on those super soft tires. He makes himself known by coming across the line and setting the fastest lap of the race so far. Lehman has retired back at the rear of the field. Not entirely sure what happened there, but he was very close with his teammate Kostas Delphin. So there could be some issues there between the two Force Indias, and that would be very true to real life.
Yeah, Julian should be able to get past Enigma in a fairly short amount of time, I hazard to guess, because Enigma's struggling a bit with his ERS, his battery load at the moment. He's charging it quite a bit, so it's going to be interesting. So is he going to fight too much? No, not really. Lets Julian go there. Knows that's not really a fight. That's worth fighting, and lets the Red Bull go through.
Absolutely, yeah, no, that was absolutely waving in through there, and Julian did break incredibly late regardless, actually, and had a bit of trouble on exit as a result of it, but he is up the order, and that is all that matters for him at the moment. Muller is going to be catching up to Hayden soon. I'm not sure if Hayden will be pitting anytime soon. He did start on those super soft tires, and none of the super soft tires have come into the pits. Skatey seems to be the last of the ultra soft runners to come into the pits now, and he also will be putting the soft tires on.
Yeah, just having a look on Hayden's telemetry. Still not saying anything about pit window yet. So I'm going to guess maybe lap 13-ish would be the earliest that you would want to come into the pits. And then depending on your tire wear, you might actually stretch those tires out a little bit more. Hayden's tire wear at the moment is only at 37%. So you can still go quite a few laps with those tires.
Interestingly, Ramdrop has just about managed to jump Skatey through the pits. They're very close to one another right now on track, but Skatey is behind the Renault, and Ramdrop was just behind him, and he was stuck behind him on track before this pit stop phase. So that's very good work from the Renault driver to put himself up the order into what I believe is de facto P4 behind Julian.
Oh, and that were two very quick penalties there. That was, let me have a look here. Posters and Assassin, who both got a 3-second time penalty just about at the same time, really.
Yeah, track penalties, or corner cutting penalties, rather. Quite a common feature of the Australian track. Quite a few corners where it's really not too difficult at all, especially running wide on exit to pick up those penalties.
Yeah, there are a few turns like that, like turn 1 or turn 6, I think that is, where it's easy to run, but just that bit wide, get off track with all 4 corners. As I said, that corner gets himself another 3-second time penalty, and he's now up to 6 seconds. Our
race leader has come into the pits, and he will be coming out now alongside Enigma. He's going to be fighting him into turn 1. Enigma has fought back. Adidas Tracksuit on those new soft tyres, which are a bit cold, not able to quite challenge the Ferrari in the traction zone there on the exit of turn 1. He has gone for the soft tyres, interestingly, so he wasn't able to make those super softs last for anywhere near a long enough time to consider putting the ultra softs on. However, I think that those super soft tyres in the first stint did actually serve him very well indeed, and now he'll be looking to get up towards the back of Pashek.
Yeah, Enigma at the moment is on the super soft tyres, having started on those, so he's on the same strategy as Adidas tracksuit behind. Only difference is Enigma hasn't made his probably one and only stop yet, so at the moment Enigma in front of the Sauber. But considering the tyre advantage that Adidas tracksuit has, he should, once the tyres come up to temperature, should be able to get past easily. And Skaty now with another, his first 3-second time penalty of the race.
Not good news for him, as he looks like he's going to be fighting for some pretty decent points in this race. Interestingly, Julian has made it past Pashek up into 3rd place on those super soft tyres, but of course he will have to pit again. We're almost certain of that. In fact, I'd say we're definitely certain of that. Hayden came into the pits on this lap, and he will be dropping down the order as a result. Pashek sticking with the back of Julian, but not looking like he's able to make a move quite yet.
Yeah, let's see where Hayden comes out of the pits. It looks like it's probably going to be P10 there. Ian just went past there, so he's still up by 6 positions from where he was on the grid, and he doesn't have to do any stop anymore, so looks like it's going to be a fairly decent race there for the Toro Rosso driver.
Yeah, considering where he started on the grid, I would not be too unhappy in his place if I were able to pick up just the 1 point for 10th place. It's a good, decent way to start off your season. As long as you're getting points, that's what matters, especially right at the beginning of the season, as Ramdrop seems to have gone straight through past Enigma there. Enigma dropping down to 6th place. He is the only runner who is still actually in the game who has not yet stopped. He is on those super soft tyres, but they will be feeling the burn just about now.
Yeah, I'd guess that he will be coming in fairly soon now. His pit window indicator is green as well, so he might come into the pits now and put on that fresh set of soft tyres and run to the end there. But obviously the more interesting battle is the one of the 2 cars ahead of him. Is Ramdrop just behind Adidas tracksuit here. We are battling for P4 at the moment, and as predicted, by the way, AOR Enigma has come into the pits. But it looks like Ramdrop is not quite close enough yet on this straight, and maybe not even down to turn 3. Obviously he has the DRS activated. But you really needed to get a good run compared to your opponent as well if you really want to try and make that move into turn 1 or turn 3.
Absolutely, yeah, it can be very difficult, especially with the nature of these turns, to make a move stick. So you really want to be careful that you do have a significant advantage going into making an overtaking maneuver. Speaking of overtaking maneuvers, though, Pashek has moved straight back ahead of Julian after spending only about 1 lap behind the Dutch Red Bull driver, and Julian falls back down into 3rd place, and that seems to me to be an indicator of the fact that his super soft tyres are now starting to fall off the cliff, and it's now the soft tyres that you want to be on.
Yeah, they're starting to degrade just that bit, as, oh, that was running very wide there in turn 12, and got himself a 3-second penalty as well while doing that. Yeah, Julian has quite a bit of fuel to burn, it seems, but he doesn't have the tyres to really use that pace advantage he could have through high engine settings. But yeah, it looks like he's coming into the pits now, and he's probably going to put on the soft tyres. It seems as if that is the tyre you want to be on, and now he gets a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane. So things are not really going Julian's way after setting that good qualifying lap time, but now the race, it's just all going backwards for him.
It is, absolutely. And I mean, even in qualifying, he had the pace, and he's had the pace in the race, but his tyre wear, his corner cutting, the penalty coming into the pits, and the penalty he got in qualifying as well, and we're yet to find out the true story behind that, but it has been a really calamitous qualifying and race thus far for Julian, despite apparently having very good pace and being able to make decent overtaking moves and make them stick as well.
Yeah, meanwhile, Muller, after all the pit stop, has extended his lead to nearly 10 seconds, and we're just halfway through the race. So that is an absolute stunning performance from the German newcomer up to this point. Obviously, there's still quite a bit to go, so he'll have to keep it on the track, obviously. but up to this point, it's a really good race from the Haas driver.
Yeah, this is a very experienced field that Muller is just dispatching with relative ease by the look of things. 9.4 seconds ahead of his teammate, who was held up by fighting with Julian, but nonetheless Muller has built a significant gap, and there are the likes of Skatey and Ian, who were in split 2 in the last season, and were pretty decent drivers in that split as well. Ramdrop and Kalon as well in 4th and 6th, ex-F1 drivers, so we know this is a very good field, and Muller really is just running away with it right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and Ramdrop's still behind Adidas tracksuit, trying to find a way around the Sauber car. At the moment, that is the battle for the 3rd spot on the podium, but it looks like as if Ramdrop is just fighting with that bit of dirty air he has behind the Sauber, and he is in that half second to second distance to the car ahead, and it's not close enough to try and make a move, but it's close enough to definitely feel the effects of that degraded downforce due to the dirty air.
Absolutely, and every time I've come on board with Ramdrop, it seems like he's following very closely behind whoever is in front of him. He's really got some very decent pace, but of course that issue he had off the start when he collided with, I believe it was Corny at the start, and he ran wide and he was fishtailing all over the place, and that really did set him back, and he's had to really rebuild his race from that point. I believe he was down in 9th or 10th after those incidents. So it's been an impressive recovery drive, although every time I've seen him he has been really kind of stuck behind the driver in front. He hasn't been scything his way through the field quite.
Yeah, and just having a look into the YouTube chat, it looks like JSR has joined us after DNFing out of the race. Obviously, a bit sad that he couldn't really enjoy the race all too much, but it's good to have you here, and obviously good to have everybody here who is watching, because the numbers tonight have been fairly decent throughout the race so far. So it's good to see you all. And I hope you are enjoying the race as much as we are. And Ram still trying to find that way around Adidas tracksuit, who now messes up turn 6, I believe that is. And now they're side by side coming in, down into the braking zone. Who will be the latest of the late breakers? They're still going side by side here. Ooh. And it looks like Adidas just gave Ram a small bump there and pushed him off track. Now I don't know if Adidas actually lifted to let Ram go because he felt a bit guilty for that. But nevertheless, Ramdrop now moves into that 3rd place position. You can see Adidas tracks now fighting the dirty air, and it's going to be interesting to see if Ramdrop can now pull away and secure that 3rd spot on the podium.
Yeah, I think Adidas tracksuit must have lifted off after that and to let Ram back through, because he did give him a pretty hefty clunk on the exit of that corner, and despite what could have been a difference in traction, the fact that Ram was the one who received that hit into the side pod indicates to me that he would have had the worst traction. So I do believe Adidas tracksuit was being a gentleman and letting Ramdrop back through, which was very, very good of him indeed. And Ramdrop, as you said, is up into 3rd place and a podium position now.
Yeah, obviously the Apex Online Racing Hype Energy F1 leagues advocate a gentleman's driving. So if stuff like that happens, you might just let someone go through, just as a bit of fairness. Because obviously, in case someone would take an incident to the stewards, your penalty will be higher if you actually caused some sort of incident and then failed to wait and let the affected driver go back through. So fair play there from Adidas tracksuit, and he's still in pursuit of Ramdrop here and trying to regain that position in a fair manner now.
And Ian and Corny, who both pitted onto super soft tyres after their first stint and have gone for 2-stop strategies, have both completed their 2nd pit stop. And interestingly, Ian, who pitted a lap ago, went onto the super soft tyres once again, so he believes he can get those to the end, while Corny, much more conservative, went onto the soft tyres and came back out in 11th place.
Yeah, it's 12 laps to go now as Muller just crossed the line. So it should be doable. We have seen people do, I think, 13 laps after the start of the race. So yeah, sure, he should be able to get those set of tyres to the end of the race.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see whether you can catch up with AOR Enigma. I'd say anyone ahead of that, considering the 15-second gap between Julian and Enigma. it'll be unlikely that Ian will be able to make up any further places than getting that 9th place to his name. It's interesting that we see such a large gap there between 8th and 9th place, a real gulf there in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I just had a look onto the timing and saw that Sasson actually has around about 50% front wing damage. It's visible on the broadcast as well. I don't know where he did get that from, but he might have to make an extra pit stop now, as I think Adidas tracksuit was that he now got a 3-second time penalty, so in case he does get past Ram, he would have to extend the gap to at least 3 seconds if he wants to stay ahead after the race results.
Indeed, the good news for him is that Skatey behind also has a 3-second time penalty to his name, so that probably won't be a problem for Adidas tracksuit actually, unless Kalon is able to close up to the back of Skatey, but with tyres older than those of Adidas tracksuit and Skatey, it doesn't seem all that likely that Kalon will be able to get anything above 6th place in the race, unless some other issues befall Skatey or he gets another 3-second time penalty, although Kalon could easily pin him back down to below 3 seconds. It would not be out of the question at all, and I know F1 online racers, when you play with strict corner cutting, you drive to within 3 seconds of your opponent. So you act as though there is a version of your opponent who is 3 seconds behind where they are, and you try and drive to that to try and beat it because you know there's a significant likelihood that they're going to have those penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having a look, Julian still soldiering on his 2-stop strategy he had to do due to his high tyre wear. And he's closing into onto Hayden's back here quite significantly. So as I started to have a look about half a lap ago, he was 2 seconds behind, and now he's already closed that gap to 1.2 seconds as Ian and Enigma actually swap places. Unfortunately, I kind of missed that. But Ian on the, in theory, fastest super soft tyres compared to Enigma, who's only on the softs.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely are the faster tyres for now, as Ian are only 3 laps old, while Enigmas are 6 laps old. And I did see the beginning of that battle, and that was coming onto the main straight. Ian just, you know, he was all over the back of Enigma, and Enigma had a pretty scruffy exit onto the straight. As speaking of scruffy, he gets himself a 3-second time penalty. I don't believe that's his first, although I might be doing him a disservice there. But Ian, yeah, it was a really easy pass down the main straight for Ian.
Is in fact his first penalty for track extension. So,
well, in that case, I apologise.
At the moment, it's at 3 seconds. Just for information on my tracking, I can't see those 5-second penalties in case someone has them. So we'll only see that after the race. But all the track limit penalties, they are shown on my screen here.
And I think a lot of people have been serving their 5-second stop-go penalties as well, especially those who have been doing 2 stops. Julian right now has been setting the pace at the moment. Ian might, now that he's in clean air, might be trying to challenge that fastest lap that Julian got earlier, and Julian is finding himself even closer to the back of his sister teammate Hayden in the Toro Rosso ahead of him.
Yeah, and a thing to mention, I think what we didn't do, obviously Ian just got past Enigma, but he is actually the fastest car on track at the moment. Just a few laps ago, he set a new fastest lap with 122.6.
Sorry to cut you off. Adidas tracksuit is in the wall and he's facing the wrong way, and I cannot think of how he would have got that far down the straight before having that crash. I cannot think what possibly happened there as Hayden and Julian go flying past him side by side. I'll cut to that now, and it looks like Hayden is letting Julian by. He doesn't want to lose any time fighting a battle that he doesn't believe he can win. And Adidas tracksuit with such a promising race from the start, going from 11th place all the way to the lead, now seems to be without a front wing, and he just seemed to drop it late in the traction zone, really late. I'd be surprised if he didn't have contact with another car, but he didn't seem close enough to the back of any other car for that to be the case.
Yeah, he was still a few tenths behind Ram as he was all those laps before. But yeah, as you said, he hit the wall quite late down the straight. So he might have not lost it due to that first bit of oversteer, but probably after the first or second try to correct that oversteer and then hit the wall. So obviously already had travelled quite a bit down the straight, as is now into the pits to get a fresh set of tyres and a new front wing, and it looks like that is going to be the ultra soft tyres for him, although it looks like they might actually have already been used for one qualifying lap.
Oh, okay, so he's going to be coming out of the pits now, a significant way behind Corny, but he is going to be on those fastest tyres compared to Corny's 4-lap old soft tyres, so we'll be able to see if he's able to close down that gap. He was showing some absolutely blistering pace at the start of the race, so we'll see if he's able to do anything about this 11th place. He now finds himself back in after starting there, and it seemed like it was going so well, he finds himself all the way back down there once again.
And a question from a spectator, that is from FK Gaming 97. Good evening to you. He asked what happened to Tom. That is Tom 97H. It looks like he had a disconnect. We don't know why, but at the moment it's only his AI goes to the AI car driving around, and that will be a disconnect at in the race results. But yeah, that really has set an end to his race. We'll try and find out what was the reason for his disconnection until next race. But yeah, at the moment he's quite a few laps down now.
Yeah, and that is a shame because he was running very well in around 4th or 5th place after the start of the race, but it was only 1 or 2 laps before he disconnected from the session and the ghost car took over. He was one of our first casualties, actually, as Ian becomes another casualty. As I mention it now, let's see if we can work out what exactly happened to him.
He spun into the wall in turn 1. He lost it on the exit curb, inside curb. It's the exit curb of turn 1, but it's the inside curb for turn 2, and he just spun off into the wall. That was it.
Well, there you go, and another DNF. That makes 5 DNFs now, and it's been quite a lot of casualties in this race. We've got 5 DNFs and 2 disconnects, and Assassin, who's been driving the whole race without half of his front wing, who effectively has DNF'd from this race, 51 seconds at the moment behind the rest of the field. So now we're basically down to the top 10 runners.
Yeah, and Assassin actually back into the pits because he's got some wing damage again. I don't know where he did get that, but he's in for another stop. Pretty
dour afternoon for the second Sauber driver, and what had been a pretty good afternoon for the first Sauber driver has quickly gone downhill. Corny right now right on the back of AOR Enigma as the Mercedes and Ferrari battle it out, but only for 8th and 9th place here in AOR.
Yeah, he's now really up the gearbox of that Ferrari there. It's the Mercedes versus Ferrari battle as they come into the penultimate corner here. And now the run out of that final corner will be absolutely essential for Corny if he wants to overtake, and for Enigma if he wants to stay ahead. Corny now in overtake, ERS mode, has the DRS open. Oh, that's a late move from Enigma down the inside, nearly like in the real world Russian Grand Prix that we had today. But Corny moves to the inside and gets past it, coming into turn 1, and looks like Enigma isn't close enough for a counter-attack, and that is Corny up into P8 as Adidas Tracksuit now sets a new fastest lap time of 1:22.2.
He is coming like a shark in the water for these two drivers here in 8th and 9th, and it was pretty critical for them actually that they didn't spend too long battling, because they could have really found themselves falling into his clutches and moving back down into 10th position. Very brave stuff, I must say, from Corny to commit to that move despite the late attempt to defend from Enigma. It was quite nerve-wracking there between the two drivers, but Corny was able to make it stick all the way down the inside. It was a very good move indeed by the Mercedes driver.
Yeah, that was definitely very aggressive defensive maneuver there from Enigma. That could have sent both cars into the wall if Corny hadn't been on top of his toes there, and really moving that bit further to the inside to avoid contact there. It was a hard move, but I mean, he left enough space on the inside for Corny to go through, so it's towards the end of the race, so obviously the battling will get more aggressive to hold on to every point that you can.
Indeed it will, and Muller, since we last checked in with him, has moved even further ahead. He's brought another 3 seconds out ahead of his teammate, who's now down to 12.5 seconds behind the front-running Haas driver. And I just want to say it again, what an incredibly professional and impressive performance we have from the new boy Muller here. Just great stuff from him, and from his teammate as well, who, if it wasn't for Muller, would indeed be winning this race. Corny picks himself a 3-second time penalty down towards the back, and Enigma also has one. I don't know if Corny has multiple though, because it's all getting rather confusing down there with the time penalty situation.
Corny is actually up to 9 seconds of penalties.
Okay.
So he might drop back quite a bit there. Although only Enigma's really behind him at the moment, so
it depends on.
It might not be too bad, but we'll have to wait and see until the end of the race, and we have yellows in sector 3, and that's Assassin.
Yeah,
Assassin was in the wall there backwards, Luckily, he can keep it going, but Assassin's race has really gone downhill in the latter half of this race. He doesn't have front wing damage though, so he can keep on going, but now
small victories, I suppose, for the Sauber driver at the moment, as he actually finds himself behind both Murphy and Tom97 HD, who haven't been in this race for a significant portion, and that just emphasizes how tough of a race this has been for the Sauber driver.
Yeah, considering that Murphy and Tom are disconnected, Assassin at the moment is about 1 minute 15-ish behind Adidas Tracks, which is the next car up ahead, so nearly a lap. So his race has really gone downhill, and it doesn't look like he's going to get any points today.
At the moment, it seems like Julian is closing up to the back of Kalon. Kalon in the Toro Rosso with 6 lap older soft tyres than Julian. Julian runs wide on the exit there, and he won't have got such good traction, so he won't be able to make use of this DRS zone to try and get past Kalon ahead of him. Kalon also neater through that turn as well, but he will be struggling with traction in general due to the wear on those soft tyres. Getting really close to the back of him there in the braking zone. Julian, I think he had a little bit of a lock up on the inside front. Coming down onto the back straight now, and he's going to be getting a decent slipstream on the Toro Rosso ahead of him, and it looks like he should be able to make a move into this braking zone. Perhaps not quite, though. Actually, Kalon manages to stay ahead for now. And at the moment, Julian actually in none on his ERS deployment. He bumps it up to high for this straight down towards turn 3. As we have more yellow flags in Sector 3. I don't know who those are for at the moment. Don't think it's Assassin again.
For Assassin again.
Oh, it is for Assassin again. Okay, so that's even more misfortune for the Sauber driver down at the tail end of the field, as Julian really close to the back of Kalon now, but he can't quite make the move. Hayden gets his second 3-second time penalty of the race, but he's got such a large gap behind him that that really won't be bothering him whatsoever. He's kind of in no man's land right now. Kalon going defensive here, and Julian looks to go around the outside, and we know he's an aggressive overtaker, and he forces his way back onto the track and actually compromised Kalon quite a bit there. Kalon tried to shove him wide, but Julian was having absolutely none of it there. Kalon going to be trying to force his way around the outside, but Julian seems to have snatched the move in slightly controversial fashion.
Yeah, that is Julian up into P5, and as that battle was going on, Ram has now caught up to the back of Paschek and is trying to pose a threat to that Haas 1-2 we have seen all season. And as we say that, he has a good run, goes to the inside here, and hard defense from Paschek, goes around the outside, but we have another straight with the DRS coming up here, and Paschek really stay to the inside, will go to the outside. He stays kind of in the middle of the track, and Ram's not really close enough this time round. We have only 3 laps remaining, so it's really go time at this phase of the race, and Ram will use every opportunity he can to get past Paschek here. His tyres are 2 laps younger than the ones of Paschek, so he has a little bit of pace advantage, but he really has to fight for it.
Yeah, Paschek's defense into turn 1 was absolutely sublime, I must say. Holding it round the outside on the brakes, didn't seem to lock up even slightly, really forcing Ram to back out of that move. But throughout the rest of the lap, it has got rather more messy from Paschek, as he ran incredibly wide on the exit of turn 3 and picked up some grass onto his tyres. Seems to have built just about a decent enough gap, as our Assassin compounds his misery with a 3-second time penalty. Paschek just staying ahead for now. Ram just making sure he doesn't forget about him here, taking slightly odd lines into the corners, trying to make himself loom large in the mirrors of that Haas.
Yeah, you can see at the moment he is saving a bit of ERS to deploy it now, which he does. He switches up his engine mode, opens up the DRS, had a decent run there. It is now behind Paschek. Will Paschek go defensive? He stays around on the outside, trying to do the same defensive maneuver he did last round. This time he ran a bit too wide onto the grass there, and that is Ram going round the outside there on in turn 2. Question is Paschek close enough to pose a threat again in turn 3? No, it does not look as if that is the case, and Ram now is in that second position with only 1.5 laps of the race remaining.
For so long in this race, it was looking so good for a Haas 1-2. Ram dropped with a sublime drive to bring it all the way back up into second after the troubles he faced on the first corner of this race. Really comes and spoils the American/German party for Müller and Paschek. However, Paschek what I was saying about him having such a sublime defense in the first corner on the first time round is exemplified by the fact that he tried to do the same thing and could not pull it off the second time round. And that's why it was so excellent the first time, is because as he showed the second time, it's really difficult to get that right.
Yeah, and there's not much left of this race. We can see Muller is now starting his last lap of the race, and he should be able to hold on for that unless he makes a mistake. So it's the only interesting thing we have here, as Julian gets another 3-second time penalty, which puts his tally up to 6 seconds at the moment. So he might lose out to Kellen behind, who hasn't received any penalties so far. Is if Paschek can get back past Ramdrop here, but he's not really close enough. He is in DRS range, but he's 6 tenths back to Ramdrop, and that won't be close enough to pose a threat on the number 13 Renault driver there.
One thing I will say is that Ramdrop's fuel light is blinking red right now. They have pretty similar amounts of ERS deployment available to them, but Ramdrop significantly less fuel available to him, and he's going to be looking to eke out those last drops of fuel towards the end, I think. Here, Paschek has now also got that blinking red fuel light, so he's now down into the same position, or same situation as Ramdrop, so he's sort of lost that advantage he would have once had briefly over the Renault driver, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to challenge him anymore here as they come towards the fast chicane. And no, he's just really too far behind. He's almost fallen out of DRS range now. He will get the DRS coming through here, but he's not going to be able to be even anywhere near close enough to make a move. Meanwhile, Muller coming around the final corner.
Yeah, Muller is now taking the checkered flag. You see weaving in celebration. So Muller, the first winner of Season 16 of the AOR Hype Energy F3 League, here with an absolute dominant drive. I mean, him and Julian both are very quick in qualifying, but the difference that set those two apart was Muller's consistency, whereas Julian's race absolutely fell apart. I mean, starting with that 5th place grid penalty, you had Ramdrop finishing the race before Paschek, so spoiling that house party bit. Just a double podium, not a 1-2 for the two. Skatey will come home in P4, Julian cross the line in P5, but as predicted, he gets skipped by Kellen, and only just by 0.08 seconds after penalties there, so that was a really close call. Hayden, the second Toro Rosso, finishing in 7th position. That is Corny now coming across line in the Mercedes to finish P8 in front of AOR Enigma, the Finnish driver, and Adidas tracksuit now coming into the last sector here. He's apart from Assassin, who's already crossed the line due to being lapped. So Adidas, the last active, not retired driver that will cross the line now to take the final points paying position for 1 point for Salvo.
Oh. Failed to use recommended tyre combos, and there we go, across the line he comes, and there it is, the 10th place. He must have had another drama because he ended up a significantly further, there was a significantly larger gap from him to 9th place than there was before. And here we see the podium with Muller taking the top step, Ramdrop in 2nd, and Paschek in 3rd.
Yeah, quite a turbulent race, to be fair. After having 18 starters, we only finished with 11 active drivers, and quite a few penalties. You can see the top 3 drivers receiving none of those, so good consistency there from them, but absolute dominant performance from Muller, finishing 15 seconds ahead, 2nd place Ramdrop there.
Yeah, penalties across the board almost, and really big shout out to those drivers who were able to avoid the penalties. Ramdrop, Muller, Paschek, and Kalon, who did indeed avoid penalties. Tom97HD also avoided penalties, but seeing as so much of the race was controlled by his ghost car, I don't think we can quite give him the credit for that one.
Yeah, so as I've said on screen now, the results for you guys with Skatey, Kellen, Julian, Hayden, Corny Enigma, and Adidas Tracksuit running up the top 10 behind the podium drivers. And then obviously we have Assassin, who technically finished in 11th, since Tom97 had that disconnect.
Okay,
so,
should we be moving to?
By the way, I just got a message from Ian saying he got wrecked by that insta spin curb, quote unquote. So yeah, he just spun off that turn 2 curb there into the wall, and that was his race over. So we'll have to wait and see if we get some people ready for their interviews. Otherwise, I'll do as I did last season and just take them out of their league and into the commentary box here for some interviews, which we like to conduct after the races. So if you guys want to have any questions asked, then write them into the chat, and we'll ask those questions to the drivers. So just having a look. Still nobody there. So who's gonna take? How about? There's not too many people in Discord, to be fair.
Well, if we have anyone to interview, that would be ideal. But if we don't, then be that as it may.
None of the podium finishes, at least. Yeah, at the moment it's a bit quiet out there. I'm just gonna pop down and maybe ask if people would like to do some commentary, interviewing. Sorry.
Okay, well, feel free, and best of luck with that venture.
Alright, so we have a few people who want to join.
Excellent, okay.
So I'm just gonna put the two in here. We're just gonna start off with Ramdrop. Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, good second half of the race for you, obviously. Good qualifying there for the first race of the season. Obviously, you have been up in higher splits in previous seasons, so you are somewhat experienced driver. Were you happy with your qualifying session today?
To be honest, not really. I messed up my super soft run, and then I messed up my ultra soft run. So I knew I had a couple of attempts in the bag, and I knew I could get sub 20 on the super softs, but just wasn't to be.
Yeah, started from P3 and then dropped quite a bit back then on the first lap, I'd say.
Yeah, I got hit.
Did you? Yeah, that was my question. Did you get hit, or was it just you trying to avoid to get hit?
Well, I had a great start compared to Tom. I was alongside him into turn 1. I hit the brakes at the normal point, but obviously he broke a lot later than me. So in my efforts to avoid him, car behind me just slammed into the back of me. That pushed me onto the grass. Then I got a bit of a tank slapper as I came back on. Collected someone on the right of the circuit. I think they went into the wall, and I think I was P8, P9, something like that. And then it was just a case of trying to battle back.
Yeah, I mean, after that scruffy start, obviously, on your first stint, you already made up a few positions, but pace-wise, you really came alive on that second stint, and it looked like those soft tires seemed to be really the race tire you wanted to be on.
Yeah, the tires were fine. The main issue was overheating. So, just like you got in real life, if you push too hard out the box, then they just fall away. So I just literally just managed them a little bit, and then yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously towards the end of the race, you had that very great battle there with Paschek, who fought very hard to hold on to that second position. But yeah, obviously you managed to get past that and spoil their Haas F1 team party. So obviously congratulations to finishing second place there.
Thank
you. And yeah, I was going to switch to Liman, who had a bit of a not so great race. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
I spun out. And before I lost my front wing on first lap, then I pitted lap 5, and then I spun out like lap 8 or 9. But actually it was really good, because normally on Australia I'm spinning quite a lot.
Yeah, so I'd hazard to guess you're still really trying to get used to driving without the line.
Yeah, but this track was really hard to drive, because the braking points are moving quite a lot with low, high fuel in quali, for example, sometimes you have to go brake later because you got lighter car, and in race you have to brake, you know, sometimes you have to brake later than in quali because the car is slower with heavy fuel. Sometimes you have to brake earlier because it's, you know, heavier. So, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Aladar, any questions you want to ask?
Yeah, I was just going to ask round drop. This one's directed at you particularly, seeing as you finished second in this race. Considering the fact that Müller was able to build up such a commanding lead in this race, do you think you're going to have an answer for him in the races to come?
Bahrain, no, because I despise that track. But yeah, I think I could have probably run with him today, to be honest. Yeah, I dropped back a little bit, but you could argue I was battling here and there and I was saving my tyres. He also pitted a lap earlier than me, so I reckon it would have been close between the pair of us, but obviously I couldn't get through quick enough.
Why is it in my streams I always get to interview the drivers who don't like the upcoming track?
Bahrain is without a doubt the worst track
I like
ever
Bahrain.
created.
Well, that is a very strong opinion there from Randrup. Might cause quite a bit of controversy there.
It's a horrible track.
Why?
Because it's a straight and then a corner, then a straight and then a corner, then
Yeah,
over sector 2. Yeah, it's just like you set your car up for the high speed straights and then you can't do anything in the middle. You set your car up for the middle and then you just get mugged on the straight. So you go in the middle and you just slide everywhere.
For corners.
Yeah, so it sounds like you don't like a challenge and like easy setup track. So
I hate Bahrain, to be honest. I've never been good at Bahrain and I never will be.
I'm not good, but I like it.
Yeah, so I'm expecting
At least
Lee-Man
something.
to have a much better performance next week and Ramdot to have a much worse performance next week.
Yep,
Yeah.
expect me at the back of the grid next week.
all right, yeah. Unless Aladar, you have anything to add?
No, that's all as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and in that case, I'd like to wrap up today's race, which was a pretty quick stream, actually. We got through everything very quickly. But yeah, obviously, thanks to all the drivers and everybody who has been watching the stream. The numbers today were actually very, very great. Happy to see. And obviously, thank you to Aladar for joining me in the commentary box for this season and for tonight.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
And yeah,
Yeah,
we hope
thanks for the stream, guys.
yeah, it's a pleasure, and we hope we'll see you guys next week to see if Müller can keep up his dominance, if Ramdrop is going to drop down the order compared to this race. And yeah, obviously, thanks to Hype Energy, who sponsor our F1 leagues, Elgato Gaming for making our streams possible, and then obviously our other sponsors, Thrustmaster and Omega GT, and hope to seeing all of you next week. Bye bye.